So after making my list of great sequels, I decided to make another video about completely insane sequels. Basically, the criteria is anything that is a vast departure from the original. Oh, and also, I'm only doing the first sequel, so no third or fourth movies. I decided to make a tier list because there's quite a few of these and the ranking system helps to organize it. The categories are similar but jacked, big departures, different in every way, unrecognizable, and insanity. There's going to be spoilers throughout the whole thing, so I timestamped everything so you can scroll ahead if you don't want any plot points given away. God, I spent hours researching and watching all these, and a lot of these are terrible sequels to good movies, but they're all very, very different from the originals, which I think makes them special. Alright, let's begin. May as well start with Crank 2, which took one of the craziest, most high-paced and over-the-top movies ever made and saw if they could push it even further, which is how we got scenes like this. Let's not forget this character fell out of an airplane at a couple thousand feet and died in the first movie. But to be honest, the only way you can make this more insane is if the main character had to be lit on fire to live. Luckily, the directors got to do just that, but with Nicolas Cage. I lightly recommend this one and I'll put it in similar but jacked. On to Ghostrider. Ghostrider 1 is pretty infamous for just how committed Cage was to his role. He's a huge Ghostrider fan and actually had to cover up his Ghostrider tattoo to play Ghostrider. God, I love Cage. To get into the role, he attempted to conjure the spirits of pre-Christian shamanic medicine men to define psychotic black magic energy, and walked around set with his face painted black and white with blacked out eyes and bones sewn into his clothes, like the spirit of Baron Samedi. And the movie still kinda sucked, which is a big letdown. But the second movie is next level, even though it also kinda sucks. Basically, the guys from Crank just kept telling him to get crazier and crazier, and at one point
Nick fucking!
Nicolas motherfucking Cage said, "I can't make this any crazier, guys."
The only thing standing between you and the rider is me. He's scraping at the door! Scraping at the door!
I like to think that the first movie is Nicolas Cage playing Ghostrider, whereas the second is Ghostrider playing Nicolas Cage. He pisses fire, goes full Hexus on this excavator.
Slime beneath me, slime up above.
Wait, is that Raiden? Is this a Scorpion origin story?
Get over here!
Sweet. I guess I recommend it if you're bored, but definitely skip everything between the excavator and the final car chase. This is going into the similar but jacked. Next up we got Chronicles of Riddick, which is technically a sequel to Pitch Black. Pitch Black is an often forgotten but awesome little indie survival horror about a group of space cadets stranded on a planet inhabited by feral creatures, and Vin Diesel is there as Riddick, a badass that can see in the dark. It's a pretty cool movie and Riddick definitely stands out. He saves this little girl, has some tense scenes with the creatures, the end. Well, now it's explained that he was the abandoned child of a feared race of warriors that are predestined to save the galaxy from a fascist tyrannical zealot. Remember how cool his surgically enhanced eyes were? Well, he's actually an alien space Jesus with the eyes of God and the strength and agility to outrun and literally flex off the power of the sun itself. It's okay though, he covered himself with a bottle of water. Did you like the grounded and gritty tone of the first movie? Sweet. Because this is a planet-spanning space opera drama thriller. Did you find it endearing how Riddick saved the little girl from the alien creatures, kind of like how Ripley saved Newt? Well, you're in for a treat, because now the little girl is all grown up and she's hot and Riddick wants to Some people really like this movie, and I can see why, but that doesn't take away from the fact that the first one is kind of a stripped-down version of Aliens, whereas this one is Dune, crossed with Battlefield Earth, crossed with Fast and Furious. Goddamn Chronicles of Ridiculous, am I right?
Give me your soul.
Wait, is this a Shang Tsung origin story?
Flawless.
Sweet. Wait, is that Carl Urban? How old is this dude? God damn. I recommend it. It's actually pretty entertaining, and this one goes in a different in every way. Next up, we got the sequel to Wizard of Oz, the aptly titled Return to Oz. The Wizard of Oz is a charming movie that basically redefined what the movie experience could be, really showing us just how incredible movies with color are. It's a straightforward fantasy adventure where a little girl named Dorothy travels to a magical land where she makes friends along the way to overcome the sinister wicked witch and bring peace and super happy fun times back to the land. The second movie came out 46 years later, basically just because the studio rights to the IP was about to expire. And although it's more faithful to the books, it's honestly pretty dark and terrifying and weird. Basically, Dorothy won't stop going on about the fever dream adventure she had in the first one. The mom thinks she has donkey brains, so she takes her to a shrink who decides to give the child electroshock therapy because of her colorful imagination. We didn't have Ritalin yet, so we did what we could. Anyway, she escapes with her maybe imaginary friend who then drowns in a flood, but now she's back in the wonderful world of Oz. But it's actually a deadly desert that turns you into sand if you touch anything.
Deadly desert?
And you'll fall and your head will crumble and your sand brains will become part of the sea of sand that we can only assume is composed of the blood of countless children lapped up by the void of granulated viscera. Well, that's okay. At least she has a serene yellow brick road to guide her along her way, and oh, it's destroyed. But that's okay. At least she has her friends, the Brave Lion and the Benevolent Tin Man, to help her along her way. Oh, they've been turned to stone. But that's okay. At least the worst thing she'll have to battle with is those cute little flying monkeys, and oh my god, what the hell is that? That's okay. At least his princess will help her out, and oh my god, she has a series of detachable heads and wants to cut off Dorothy's. That's okay. I'm sure she'll find some other lovable companions to help her along her. Oh, sweet Jesus, what are those? You know, this movie is kind of like The Labyrinth. And actually, it has some really cool sets and incredible character designs. But I just really don't see how anyone could watch the first movie and expect people to accept this movie as its sequel. Spoiler alert for the ending. Remember the heartwarming reunion of the first? Well, in this one, the mental hospital burned down and the doctor was cooked alive. And the head nurse gets arrested for helping the doctor perform sadistic experiments on the children. So in an ironic twist of fate, she's institutionalized to live out the rest of her days receiving shock treatment and mind-numbing analgesics. And Dorothy returns home only to find out that she's still seeing her imaginary friend, which suggests that sending her to the mental hospital was justified. And so she sentenced an innocent and able-minded woman to a lifetime of psychiatric imprisonment in her place. All in all, not bad. I recommend it. This could potentially go in insanity, but I think I'll put it in the unrecognizables. Next, let's take a look at Rambo. Rambo 1 was a deeply solemn character analysis about the fallout effects the American soldiers were facing when they returned from the ill fate of Vietnam War, only to be dismissed and dejected by the very country they thought they were serving to protect. It's a harrowing commentary on a population's growing disillusion regarding the industrial military complex, and a man suffering desperate and despondent from the harsh truth that he was simply a broken cog discarded from the merciless man-eating war machine that runs an altruistic hope, courage, and honor for a nation that simply doesn't give a damn.
And I did what I had to do to win, but somebody wouldn't let us win. And I come back to the world, and I see all those maggots at the airport protesting me, spitting.
It was a bad time for everyone, Rambo. It's all in the past now.
For you! For me, civilian life is nothing. Back there, I could fly a gunship. I could drive a tank. I was in charge of $1 million equipment. Back here, I can't even hold a job. Fucking guys! Ah! He's laying there, he's fucking screaming, there's pieces of him all over me, just like this, and I'm trying to pull him off, you know, and it's my friend that's all over me. He's got blood and everything, and I'm trying to hold him together.
This scene is beautiful, and basically sums up the themes of the movie. The second, well, here's the poster for the first movie. Here's the poster for the second. You can see where we're going with this. Also, the first movie is called First Blood, and this is called Rambo, First Blood 2. Because they realized there was obviously going to be a lot more blood moving forward. The first movie laments the idea of creating mentally unstable but highly trained and weaponized human psychopaths. And the second movie is just kind of really stoked on the fact. It's funny to say out loud like that, but it's kind of a tragic undermining of the commentary of the first movie by basically turning a war vet loose so he can go back to Vietnam, where he revels in killing even more people than he did the first time around. In the first movie, he mentions he killed 59 people during the war and this torments him. So naturally, in this movie, he kills 75 and he loves it. Total body count in the first movie, 1 indirect kill. The total body count in subsequent movies, 551. I recommend the first one, but this gets a pass for me. And it definitely goes into the different in every way. The body count I just mentioned is actually referenced in Hot Shots Part Deux, which is another sequel that went balls to the wall. The first is a pretty good, albeit somewhat tame parody of movies like Top Gun, and the second is a truly insane take on movies like Rambo and Apocalypse Now. Just look at this. This is Saddam Hussein as the T-1000 fusing with his pet poodle. This is Charlie Sheen killing someone with a chicken. I don't even know if this movie would entertain kids today who wouldn't get these references, but I didn't get most of them when I watched it as a kid, and scenes like this absolutely wrecked me. Huge recommend. This one just barely makes it into the big departures. Then we've got Babe. Hey, remember when George Miller took a break from making stylized, ultra-violent, post-apocalyptic, psychosexual, fetish-driven, steampunk, dystopian, wasteland action thrillers to help write an adorable kids movie about a talking pig that overcomes all his hurdles with his overwhelming charm in a quaint countryside setting? Well, do you remember when he wrote and directed the sequel, Babe 2, Pig in the City? A movie wherein Babe inadvertently but severely maims his adorable owner, so the wife tries to take over the farming duties only to fall behind on bake payments and face foreclosure on their land. Don't worry. They travel to the city to put Babe in another sheep herding competition, but are falsely accused of drug smuggling and miss their flights and end up in a seedy hotel where Babe befriends a monkey that robs them, and then the monkey gang coerces Babe into becoming a clown, but convinces the farmer wife that she lost Babe, so she is brokenhearted and goes to look for him, but gets mugged. But that's okay, because Babe is performing at a hospital for terminally ill children, but he messes up and sets a curtain on fire which burns the ward down, tragically killing all the children, but he rationalizes that he was mercifully putting them out of their agonized misery. Then he drowns some dogs, but lets the strongest one live under the condition that he serves them in perpetuity. But Babe's celebratory reverie is interrupted by animal control, and they steal everyone but Babe with the intentions of culling them all. But Babe decides to set them free under the condition that they too serve under him, forcing them into a dire ultimatum of a life of slavish squalor or no life at all. Begrudgingly, they agreed to kneel to his hooves. He burns down the SPCA and returns to the farmer's wife, who is now free from the jailer's clutch. He forces the owner of the seedy club to sell her home and business so he can turn it into a debaucherous nightclub that he runs while also peddling drugs to the patrons. He scrubs the books of the nightclub to launder the blood-soaked and curled-up bills procured by drug dealing in the club, creating a self-perpetuating closed-loop system. The despondent and disillusioned youth come to dance feverishly in a desperate attempt to escape the horrid realities of their daily lives, but it's only with the aid of chemicals that they're ever truly able to relinquish the pain temporarily. But every night their tolerance builds, and the momentary window of reprieve grows smaller and smaller as their intake rises proportionately, and every morning they awaken to the ever-deepening hellish withdrawals and the realization that hope of true natural escape is only a mocking fantasy that abandoned them years ago, as they march in rhythmic drawls back to the numb base of the club, calling them like sickly moths in the night, as they spend every penny they earned in the day to once again continue the cruelly paradoxical cycle of disassociation mixing with dependency. If they stop, they'll die. But to continue is to accept a longer form of death, but the drugs won't release them. So they dance, every step weaker and quieter, dancing alone, together, as the sweat falls as tears from every pore like Jesus' blood in the gardens of Gethsemane, and Babe remains bathing in the crimson fountains of youth like the vampiric Countess of Hungary. It's honestly a pretty charming movie, and there's some nice musical pieces throughout. Light recommend. This one goes in different in every way. Next up, we can get to Bernie's 2. The first film is an admittedly ridiculous plot where two employees of a CO find him deceased and parade him around for a few days, and everyone around them doesn't notice he isn't alive anymore, and the two uncover and stop a scheme involving the mob. It's slapstick and ridiculous, but it is a fairly isolated and small-scale series of events. The second movie involves a treasure lost at sea, and Bernie gets resurrected by a voodoo queen, but the resurrection gets messed up, so now Bernie is a zombie that only animates when he hears music, which makes him walk towards the treasure. To be honest, this movie is terrible, but definitely absurd, and the physical comedy of Bernie is just as good as the first one. If you're watching that scene and thinking the dance move might be familiar, it's because it inspired a TikTok dance and a rap song about it over 30 years later.
We on the journey, moving like burn. If it ain't about money, then it really don't concern me.
Wild. Don't recommend. That's another one for big departures. And on to Blair Witch 2. Everyone knows that Blair Witch 1 popularized found footage low-budget horror movies, a trend that is still widely used today, and incidentally, my favorite category on Pornhub. But you know what movie didn't follow that trend? Its sequel, that only came out 1 year later. The Book of Shadows isn't really a terrible movie, but it got pretty hacked up by the studios in the editing room, and it's just a normal-looking movie where the first movie exists, and the characters kind of explore the lore, but are killed off. It's kind of like Thanksgiving 3. Kinda.
Yes, sir. Your pee-pee.
Pee-pee?
Your gravy chode, sir. I'm afraid we lost it.
You lost my dick?
Wait, there's 5 of these? Jesus. No. Don't really recommend. This goes into the unrecognizable, because you'd have no idea this was a sequel if you didn't mention the first movie in it. Next up, Troll 2. Troll 1 is pretty odd, but it's honestly kind of awesome in its 80s charm. Basically, a troll takes over a San Francisco apartment and is using it as a gateway for the troll world to spill into our world. Wait, is that Elaine? Is this a Seinfeld origin story? Sweet. And the second movie? Well, it's often cited as the worst sequel ever made. The two are completely unconnected because the sequel was originally supposed to be just called Goblins, but the American distributors said, fuck it, make it Troll 2. That'll work. It doesn't work. The second movie is about a family who goes vacationing into town just to find out that the entire population is actually goblins in disguise. Man, this movie's weird. Okay, here's a list of a few scenes. This dude's watching TV, and the chick on the TV said she's actually real, so we should go outside and see. And there she is, and she has corn for some reason. And then he invites her inside, and this happens. Why? This dude sees the goblins, and instead of being scared of literal monsters, this happens.
Let me give you some advice, you dwarfs. Get out of here, or you're going to be in a lot of trouble.
Then this chick drinks goo that makes her turn into a vegetable mush, and she gets eaten by trolls or goblins or trolls or whatever. And this scene happens.
They're eating her! And then they're going to eat me! Oh my God!
This kid's family is about to eat goblin food, so his magical grandpa tells the kid he has to stop them. But the kid doesn't know how, so the grandpa freezes time to give him 30 seconds to come up with a plan. His plan? Pissing on the dinner. So dad takes him upstairs to teach him a lesson. By pissing on him. No. That's what I thought was going to happen. Well, this is actually the explanation.
What are you going to do to me, Daddy?
Tighten my belt by one loop so I don't feel hunger pains. And your sister and mother will have to do likewise.
Yeah, that makes sense. This movie gets dumber and funnier the longer you watch. I definitely recommend it. And it's definitely going into insanity. How about the Mask sequel? The Mask is one of the 3 iconic Jim Carrey classics released in 1994. It really showed how impressive CGI could be, and the wonder these technical heights was not only matched, but surpassed by Jim Carrey's ecstatic and electric performance. He finds a mysterious mask that's never really explained, he gets a girl, overcomes a goon, and lives happily ever after. The sequel asks us, what would the first movie be like if the effects were terrible, the protagonist was truly uncharismatic and grating, and all the mystery was written away by framing the entire narrative around a supernatural mythological plot involving Loki and Odin. Remember that awesome dance scene with Jim Carrey and Cameron Diaz? Well, here's the son of the Mask.
What? This is the part where you dance. This is the part where you boogie.
Thought that was bad? This is 10 seconds later.
You're just too good to be true. Yeah, good to be true. Can't take my eyes off of you. I love you, baby.
Thought that was bad? This is 10 seconds later.
So if you feel like I feel, please let me know that it's real. You're just too good to be true.
Thought that was bad? This is 10 seconds later.
I love you, baby. Don't bring me down, I pray. Oh.
Thought that was bad? This is 10 seconds later.
You're just too good to be true. Can't take my eyes off you. You feel like having a touch. I wanna hold you so much.
I could go on and on about how bad this movie is for so long, but just look at some of these scenes. Oh, and there's an explanation as to why the baby has powers. While the dude was wearing the mask, he knocked up his girlfriend and the mask's sperm. I don't even want to explain this, but I don't have to, because here's the scene. Oh man, this movie is bonkers and it makes no sense. Now I can imagine if some of y'all might be like, hey, that could be entertaining and just how over the top and bad it is. Trust me, it's not. It's annoying. Definitely don't recommend it. This one goes into the different in every way category. Next up, we got Highlander 2.
There can be only one.
The sequel. In the first, there's a simple basic mythos about how some people are immortal, but if they decapitate another one of their kind, they absorb their power one by one till they have all the powers, and they're the only one left. They call this the game.
Impala, chrome hydraulics, 808 drums.
Nope, not that game.
It's all about the game, and how you play it.
Nope, not that game either. Nope, wait, wait. Killing all the foes to absorb their powers until you have all the power and you're the only one left? It's actually completely like this game. So basically just Mega Man, but Mega Man is Raiden, and Zero is Sean Connery. There's a love interest, a mentor, a villain, some flashbacks, and that's pretty much it. Oh, Except Raiden gains all the powers, meaning he can influence humans to find world peace now, and he's mortal. So, kinda like the opposite of Queen Elizabeth. Admittedly, they kinda wrote themselves into a corner, because the movie had a satisfying and conclusive ending. So the solution? Aliens. And magic. Magic aliens. All the Highlanders are from planet Zeiss now, and they came to Earth where they gained immortality to fight over who gets to live on Earth or something. I don't know how Raiden and Sean Connery forgot about all this in the first one, because they were exiled together, but whatever. It's now the future, which looks like Blade Runner, but terrible. And Raiden is a scientist who tries to solve the ozone layer issue by building a giant shield to wrap around and protect the Earth, but now everything is super dark, kinda like The Crow, but terrible. Now he's super old and people are against the shield because they think the ozone layer repaired itself, but the shield company doesn't want this info to get out and blah 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 blah. More Highlanders are sent from Zeiss and Raiden kills them and absorbs their lightning, which makes him young and immortal again, which makes no sense and undermines the whole first movie, but whatever. He summons Sean Connery somehow and they decide to destroy the shield and the main alien bad guy at the end. It retcons the first one to make that movie make no sense, so they can set up the new lore so that a sequel can also make no sense. Luckily, it was based in the far future, so every movie after it was set before it, so it never happened. Don't recommend. This one goes into the big departures. Alright, how about Human Centipede 2?
How about new?
Everyone knows about Human Centipede 1, and like the second Blair Witch, this sequel takes place in a world that recognizes the first, but in this one there's a mentally deranged guy that's obsessed with the first movie, to the point where he jerks off to it with sandpaper. Oh man, that's an edgy and dumb thing to have to say out loud. God damn. Anyway, he wants to recreate the movie, but instead of 3 people all sewn together, he's gonna have, dun dun dun, 12 people all sewn together. Whoa. He cuts all their Achilles, rips out their teeth, cuts their butts and staples them together. He gives them laxatives, gets all horny, people die, something happens to a newborn baby that YouTube will hate me saying out loud, and an actual centipede goes up someone's... you get it. If you like torture porn, I highly recommend. I highly recommend you go to therapy and do something better with your life.
You crazy Dutch bastard.
That's another one for the similar but jacked. Next up, we got Bad Boys 2, which is just Bad Boys turned up to Michael Bay 11.
An 18-wheeler spins out of control, and it's all like, rush! In this huge tanker full of diamonds, crawl, 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 crawl!
The first is a fairly over-the-top buddy comedy action movie, but the second is just ridiculous. 1,000,000 bullets shot, 1,000 cars flipped, and an extended car chase where Will Smith and Martin Lawrence literally drive through Cuban shanty towns. How are these the good guys? Oh, we can't forget that lovable and iconic Michael Bay dialogue that we've all become so accustomed to.
That one puckered up my butthole.
Ugh. I don't recommend it, but some of my friends do love this movie. This also goes in similar but jacked. Next up, we got Terrifier 2. Terrifier 1 is revered by the slasher community for its stripped-down plot and over-the-top gritty practical gore. It's basically just one clown dude hunting a couple chicks in a building while butchering people. As far as slashers go, it's pretty damn good. The second movie still has Art the Clown, but also has this little Art the Clown chick that people may or may not be able to see because she may or may not be in Art's head and also may or may not be in this kid's head. It also has a subplot where this chick gets a mystical princess sword from her dead dad, and when she gets killed at the end, she is literally resurrected with the power of love and Amazonian space magic or something, and returns as a warrior angel and kills Art. But later, the mutilated chick from the first one gives birth to Art, as his head comes out from between her legs and the movie ends. Die-hard fans think this movie is good, but they can't see past the torture porn enough to realize this movie is an hour longer than it should be, and has so many plot holes and discrepancies, and such a dumbass mystically driven narrative that it's honestly embarrassing. Sorry to be a hater, but boo this movie. Don't recommend. This goes in a big departures. Next up is American Psycho 2. Like Troll 2, and the second Super Mario game, American Psycho 2 was never intended to be a sequel, but it was actually just its own thing that got converted into a sequel to try and dupe the fans of the original into getting stoked on the release of something similar in name alone. Oh, you crafty producers, you.
Is this like a sequel or a reboot or a soft reboot? Yes. Fantastic.
But unlike Super Mario 2, American Psycho 2 objectively sucks ass. It stars Mila Kunis, and in the opening scene she's a little girl attacked by Patrick Bateman, who is obviously not played by Patrick Batman, but instead of getting killed, she kills him, which blossoms bloodlust and psychopathy somehow. This is definitely a weird way to force character development immediately into a character we've never met, but if you remove this scene, the rest of the movie still functions the same. Actually, it'd probably just make more sense. It would also have zero reference to the first movie, which kind of just proves this scene was slapped on as an afterthought ploy to connect the two stories and convert this dog shit movie into a sequel. Basically, we've got a bunch of awful voiceover narration about this 110-pound chick murdering people way, way bigger than her. Her motivation is that she wants to be the teacher's assistant to William Shatman, but there's a bunch of competition, so she kills them all one by one, as some people catch collateral damage along the way. Does any of this have any deeper social commentary, like how the soulless, cutthroat nature of an industrious free market society creates violent by design superficial psychopaths? Nope. She's just quirky and doesn't like competition, and a lot of the dudes are actually scumbags, so in some weird-ass affirmative action Disney feminist logic, she's actually not that bad or something. Ugh. Then she tells William Shatner how bad of a dude he is, so he kills himself. Which is kind of like Hard Candy, but if Hard Candy was written by Rachel Zegler.
It's Hollywood, baby.
But she does strangle this dude with a condom. So that's fun. Nope. Don't recommend. That's going safely and unrecognizable. How about the Nightmare on Elm Street sequel? So we all know Nightmare on Elm Street. Wes Craven's groundbreaking masterpiece. Freddy haunts your dreams. Great concept, great practical effects, and great kill scenes that shook audiences to the core at the time. Wes Craven didn't want to come back for a sequel, and he didn't like the script. But the script is where things get interesting. Long story short, this is when America was starting to become openly gay in a somewhat accepted way, so the writer wanted to represent that community, and also create a metaphor wherein Freddy represents a young man's repressed homosexuality and the fear and self-hatred that surrounds coming out. It's funny because basically everyone in the film says that while they were making it, they didn't think it was a movie about homosexuality, and they didn't notice it at all. But let me play a few scenes for you.
We made Nightmare 2 absolutely clueless that it had any gay overtones whatsoever.
Look, it was supposed to be subtext.
All I can say is we were all incredibly naive, or all incredibly latently gay. Read into it what you will, but I just thought it was a horror scene, which really makes me feel stupid.
Something is trying to get inside my body.
And you want to sleep with me?
Most of the cast may not have known, but the director definitely knew what he was doing. In fact, Mark Patton, the main character, said he had to shut down some of the ideas that went too far, like Freddy making him deep throat one of his finger knives. Jesus. This one's wild, and I definitely applaud the writer for trying to represent the queer community, but it doesn't take away from the fact that this must have been so confusing for the people watching in theaters. Just a theater full of young, avid moviegoers, mostly dudes, on the edge of their seat waiting for the next bloody kill, or tit, to see scenes like these, and kind of just shift a little and make a side-eye to see if their friend thought it seemed off, but neither of them actually saying anything out loud. Apparently Europeans loved it, because they got the super subtle subtext. Definitely recommend. This one's going in the big departures. Next up, we have the sequel to House of a Thousand Corpses, The Devil's Rejects. The second movie is nothing like the first movie, and I'm just going to come out and say it. Rob Zombie sucks as a director. Dracula is one of the greatest songs ever made, but House of a Thousand Corpses is just an edgy Texas Chainsaw 2 ripoff. The dialogue sucks.
Do you fuck chickens?
Well, I have thought about fucking some chickens before.
These characters are all just cringy edgelords, and we need to stop letting Rob Zombie touch beloved horror movie IPs. Come at me. I don't care. And don't recommend it. And that's another one for the big departures. Alright, I'm looking at the time on this so far, and I'm like halfway through the list of movies. I think I'm going to split this up into 2 videos. Alright, so if you like this one, please like, subscribe, and if you don't, tell me why I suck and Rob Zombie's the best. And I'll see you on the next one. Alright, cheers.